Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Kansas City jazz pianist Jackie Myers of the Myers Swingset. She spoke with us about her newest album, 2018's The Instrumental One, a live album she was invited to record at the Green Lady Lounge in Kansas City, Missouri. It's getting some great reviews, and she's very happy with it. These days, she is splitting time between Austin, which was where she was involved in the MD pop scene, and now she is focusing more on her jazz life in Kansas City. She loves this town, and it's flourishing. She spoke about this and so much more. So please get to know her and dig this interview, my friends.
Thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's dive right in here and talk about your latest album, Instrumentals. I've had a chance to wrap my head around it. It's a great album, and it's getting some pretty good reviews. Talk to me about how you feel about it.
I was challenged with that album. John Scott of the Green Lady asked me to write an instrumental album, which I'd never done before. And I'd always been a jazz player. I'd always had an interest in jazz, but my history includes more of a singer-songwriter background from Austin and working in a lot in the indie circle or the country circle. I really dove in. I had, the best time ever. It was such a nice thing to have that much harmonic freedom and to have somebody challenge me like that. And yeah, it's my first instrumental jazz album, but I don't think it'll be my last. I'm super proud that I got to make it in one of the most important jazz cities in America, Kansas City.
Sometimes when I hear this from others that come into the jazz fold and they produce, compose, or make an album that's jazz and it's a bit of a departure from what they're used to, I always hear this sentiment that it's refreshing. Why is it so refreshing? You said harmonically it opened up freedom and doors to you, but overall, why do you think people that come into this jazz realm that might think, well, I've never done this before, and come away thinking, this is awesome, I may do it again?
Well, I can't speak to others. I can say that one of the reasons it was interesting to me is even though within form you can find, within any form, if you're a creative person, you can find expression. But jazz is about knowing the rules and not necessarily staying within them. Knowing the rules in jazz is all about deciding when to break them or stay within them. Whereas sometimes in other genres, that line is a little bit more deeply drawn. Jazz is about understanding when to bend them, when to create tension by bending those rules or breaking them, and when to come back. And it's all about a sense of control. And your expression is very much, when did you decide to stay in the lines and when did you decide to go outside of them? And that's the mark you put on it in a lot of ways, or that's how I think about it anyway.
So are you based in Austin now?
Right now I'm living in both Austin and Kansas City. Technically,
Okay.
I'm a resident of Austin currently.
So I guess that's what I'm trying to make the connection here with your lineage. So you were born and raised in Austin.
I was born and raised in Washington, D.C.
So talk to me a little bit about how you made this path in your life to Kansas City.
Jazz has always been a pretty important part of my life. I grew up going to Blues Alley in D.C., and in D.C. we have the Kennedy Center, which holds free jazz concerts. And I took advantage of those. My father loved jazz. He had a great record collection. So just growing up, it was around. And then I went to school for music, and one of the places to get a job was Austin, Texas. It's still a great place to get a job as a musician. But in terms of still being in love with jazz, as much as Austin is a great place to find work, there's not a huge jazz scene. The jazz scene there is excellent. And the Elephant Room is a great club, and all the players there are just amazing. For me, because I really wanted to be immersed, I started to spend time in Kansas City. Because any day of the week here, there's 10 clubs with live jazz. And you've got the history. Charlie Parker made this city in a lot of ways. So I got here because I was doing a lot of the indie pop circuit in Austin, and I was touring up here, and I just sort of fell for the fact that you could do jazz here. And you didn't have to do other genres if you didn't want to.
So it's obviously easy, and it's almost rhetorical for me to say that you really enjoy the Kansas City jazz scene.
Oh, yeah. And I thought you were going to ask me if it's easy. When you use that word, I thought you were going to ask me if it was easy to play jazz here. And I'm going to go ahead and answer it even though you didn't ask me, because I am super stretched in this scene. I find myself having to practice hours every single day just to keep up with the skill set that the others seem to inherently have here. A lot of these musicians went to UMKC, so already they have like a deep knowledge and understanding of the jazz idiom. And they grew up listening to it in, again, a very important city that loves bop and loves organ jazz and loves all these genres. And it's on the radio all the time. So when I come up here to play and when I'm spending time here, I'm honored and I have to really work to keep up.
Well, obviously you have one of the greatest ambassadors in this town these days with John Scott that talked to you and got you involved in this project. What do you have to say about coming from Austin, which is a very prominent music epicenter in this country, even the world? What do you have to say about someone like John Scott and what he's doing between the Black Dolphin and the Green Lady?
I can speak to what it means to me. He's given me a chance, and he's encouraged me. In fact, I'm sitting outside the Green Lady in my car right now after having practiced the organ there for a couple hours. He has now asked me to learn the organ. He's encouraged me to become part of several groups that I would not have known if it wasn't for him. I think he's single-handedly the biggest employer of jazz musicians in the city. And the thing that he does is let the musicians concentrate on music. For him, he runs a club. He thinks it's important for him to run the club. He thinks it's important to find good musicians. But he doesn't necessarily ask the musicians or put pressure on them to, count numbers, get a certain amount of people in the door. He sees a business and he sees musicians, and he sees, having good music as a foundation for that business. But he takes responsibility for getting his name out there and making the business prominent. He doesn't put that pressure on the musicians, and I think that's why he's successful.
Right now I just realized I saw you play on the piano, I believe, with Mike Herrera and the trio the night that Chris Hazelton was having his opener at the Black Dolphin. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was right next to the Green Lady with my quartet.
Beautiful. Okay, quartet, yeah. Because I actually shot video of that specifically, and I used it as a promo for Neon Jazz, but I remember you were on the keys, so all of it's coming full circle now. So I was trying to place where I knew where you were from and how I've seen you live, because I see so many bands, it seems like, lately that I'm trying to put it together. So yeah, that was wonderful. That was a great night of music between you and going over to see Hazelton. So yeah, that was a grand slam for Green Lady that night for sure.
But yeah, I stayed for Chris's set. I went over afterwards.
It's great to see things like that happening here, because I think, I talked to Lonnie McFadden a few weeks ago, and I asked him about what the scene's like here, and he comes from that old world of knowing people that knew Charlie Parker personally, and he's like, there's never been a better time in Kansas City jazz than there is right now. And I think that speaks a lot to what Kansas City has to offer. He even took it a step further and said, if Downbeat or Jazz came in and did a feature on Kansas City, I think the world would be surprised at how much it's flourishing. I think sometimes we exist off the fuselage of things like Charlie Parker and that he came from here, but I think we've reincarnated ghosts that are actually in material form now in this town.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, sometimes I feel like I know a secret by understanding the fact that there's just a massively skilled and just quantitatively large jazz scene here. Because people don't, for whatever reason, people don't necessarily know about it on a national or international scale. And coming from a city where people do know about this, people know about Austin. They know about Austin artists. Then a lot of folks, when I say that I'm starting to spend more time in Kansas City, they kind of think I'm nuts. Because why would you do that? Why would you go? It's like going from L.A. to the middle of the country or something.
Yep.
But that's because he's right. People don't necessarily know. I mean, it's just a matter of time. There's a massive amount of talent here right now.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The other thing is just it's not just talent, it's class. Like that guy, Chris Hazelton, who runs Boogaloo 7, when I was first starting to figure out the organ, I'd come see him and I'd ask him questions. And he was like, why don't you just come over? I'll show you what I'm doing. And he had me over his house. He barely knew me. Showed me what he's doing with the pedals. Gave me CDs from his personal collection to take with me and listen to. And he is not the only one that's that welcoming. I mean, he's an exceptional person. But it's the better the jazz players here, the sweeter and classier they are. And people are trying to share their knowledge and share their gigs and include everyone. Whereas other scenes, that is not the case, and I've toured and lived in other places. And, when there are not enough gigs to go around, people get kind of funny about them. But that is not what you find here. People are excited about jazz, and they want to share that knowledge, and they want you to be as good as you can be.
And so you've obviously come from a place, you come from an indie pop scene in a big city like Austin, and you come here to Kansas City, and you're obviously more invested in jazz now. I want to ask you this. Why do you love jazz?
I don't know if anyone can explain why they love something. Why do I love jazz? I don't know. I've never been asked that before. Well, okay, I can describe what it feels like a little bit, and maybe people can deduce why that would mean I love it. Like I was alluding to it before. There's a set of rules. There's your jazz harmony rules. And even within a song, you've got the form, you've got the theme over the form, and then they let you off your leash. You play the theme, you play the melody, and then you make up something over that. And folks that don't know a lot about jazz, that's the first thing that you learn. You play the melody, and then people keep playing the chords and the bass line and the rhythm, and when it's your turn, you take a solo over that form. There's very few things as thrilling or as freeing as allowing yourself to speak truth in that moment, the best that you can. And you almost have to, get outside yourself and focus at the same time. And your base of musical knowledge has to be pretty extensive in order for you to flourish in that particular situation.
So let me ask you this. You're a part of, doing your solo individual work. You're a part of the Myers Swingset with instrumentals. So I want to know this. As someone that performs music live for people and someone that's put out produced material from a studio for people to purchase and to divulge, what do you want the audience or fans to get from the music you put out? How do you want them to feel about that end product you're putting out for them?
Well, I hope that they can feel a little bit what I feel while I'm playing it, what I just described. I try to write themes or melodies that are either catchy or compelling in some way or another, and then when I'm soloing, I hope they can feel that energy that I feel. And same with my band. When I write, I hope that my band enjoys the form that I've written. I hope that while they're sailing through the song with me, they're all on the same ride. Music is a unifying force. Your goal is generally to create something bigger than yourself that everybody can be a part of. And if you're able to do that, that's an honor,
So let me ask you this. Final question. What's the best thing about Kansas City?
The best thing about Kansas City is the art and the culture here. And those are somewhat intangible things, but if you find them, you know it. And if you're invited to be part of it, you're very special, and you should take that chance.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to wrap everything up. Jackie, thank you for taking a minute to talk about the new album, about your experiences and what's going on in Kansas City, and good luck with everything.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Austin, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Jackie for her time, music, and devotion to the Kansas City scene. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.